Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. Welcome to Virgo. We're pulling up your final power dynamics reading on this specific energy. As always, take what resonates, softly release the rest, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay connected with future messages. Now, let's break down what intimidation and impact is revealing to you. um, you need to pay attention to something you've been dismissing. And the reason this is serious is because ignoring it is creating consequences you're not seeing yet, but will see very soon if the pattern continues. This isn't about creating fear, this is about creating awareness. Because sometimes the most loving thing someone can do is point out the thing you're pretending not to see, the pattern you're minimizing, the situation you're normalizing that actually isn't normal. Let me describe what this looks like. You may have been making excuses for something or someone, explaining away behavior that shouldn't need explanation, justifying dynamics that healthy people wouldn't tolerate. Some people experience this as loyalty, as being understanding, as giving someone the benefit of the doubt, as not being judgmental. It might feel like you're being mature by not overreacting, by being patient, by waiting for things to improve, by believing the best in people, even when their actions suggest otherwise. But there's a difference between patience and enabling. And what you're doing has crossed that line. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, what behavior have you been tolerating that you know deep down is unacceptable? Maybe it's how someone treats you. Disrespect disguised as honesty, manipulation disguised as love, control disguised as care, and you've been accepting it because you don't want to be difficult or demanding or ungrateful. You may have convinced yourself that everyone has flaws, that relationships require compromise, that nobody's perfect and you're being unrealistic if you expect better. It's possible you're not being unrealistic. You're just accepting treatment you shouldn't accept because you're afraid of being alone or starting over or admitting you chose wrong. Some people stay in harmful situations because leaving feels harder than staying, because the known pain feels safer than unknown possibility, because they've invested so much that walking away feels like wasting time. You may be one of those people. And the warning is that staying is costing you more than you realize. Your self-respect, your peace, your sense of what you deserve. It can feel dramatic to call something harmful when it's not obviously abusive, when it's just subtle, just consistent, low-level disrespect. Just patterns that slowly erode instead of dramatically destroy. But slow erosion is still erosion, and if you don't stop it, eventually there's nothing left. This reflection invites you to consider, what are you slowly losing by staying in this situation? There's something specific about what makes this a warning instead of just advice. It's possible you're approaching a point of no return, where the damage becomes permanent, where you lose parts of yourself that are hard to reclaim, where the cost of staying becomes irreversible. You may think you can always leave later, that you can tolerate this a little longer and make a change when you're more ready, when circumstances are more favorable, when you have more options. Some people wait until the situation becomes unbearable before acting. They need pain to get bad enough to override fear of change. They won't leave until staying becomes literally impossible. You may be heading toward that point. And the warning is that you don't have to wait for unbearable. You can choose to leave when it's just unacceptable, before it gets worse, before more damage is done. It can feel premature to leave before things get really bad, like you're giving up too easily, like you should try harder to make it work. But Leaving when you still have dignity intact is wisdom, not weakness. Protecting yourself before you're completely broken is self-respect, not selfishness. This reflection invites you to consider, are you waiting for things to get worse before you'll take action? Let me talk about what you're not seeing because you don't want to. It's possible you're not seeing how this is affecting you, how you've changed, how much smaller you've become, how much of yourself you've sacrificed trying to keep peace or maintain connection or avoid conflict. You may not recognize yourself anymore. Your friends might have noticed. Your family might have said something, but you dismissed it because admitting they're right means admitting you're in something you shouldn't be in. Some people become unrecognizable in wrong situations. They lose their spark, their confidence, their joy, their ability to trust their own judgment. You may be experiencing that and not realizing how much you've changed because the change was gradual, like boiling a frog. The temperature rises so slowly you don't notice until you're cooked. It can feel like you're just adapting, like you're being flexible, like you're growing and evolving. But adaptation to dysfunction isn't growth, it's just survival. And survival mode isn't a way to live long term. What you might need is honest outside perspective. Someone who knew you before this situation, who can reflect back how much you've changed, how different your energy is, how much dimmer your light is. Some people avoid those conversations because they don't want to hear what they already know. They isolate from people who would tell them truth because truth requires action they're not ready for. You may have been doing that. Pulling away from people who question your choices. Surrounding yourself only with people who support your denial. Creating an echo chamber that validates staying. It can feel protective to avoid people who challenge you, but it's not protection, it's just delayed reckoning. This reflection invites you to consider who in your life has been trying to tell you something you haven't wanted to hear. There's something about what happens if you don't heed this warning. It's possible you continue down this path and eventually reach crisis. Something breaks, something forces the issue, something makes staying impossible. You may experience that as the situation getting worse, but what actually happens is you reach your limit. Your tolerance maxes out. Your ability to pretend ends. Some people need to hit that wall, need to reach absolute bottom before they'll climb out, need pain to become excruciating before they'll make a change. You may be one of those people, or you may be capable of choosing differently, of leaving before you hit bottom, of protecting yourself before crisis forces it. It can feel like you're not strong enough to leave until you have to. Like you need the situation to become unbearable to justify taking action. But you don't need justification. You don't need it to get worse. You don't need permission to protect yourself from something that's hurting you, even if the hurt is subtle. What you might need is to imagine your future self, the one who stayed, the one who waited for crisis, the one who tolerated until tolerance broke. Some people look back with regret, not because they eventually left, but because they didn't leave sooner, because they wasted years in something they knew wasn't right, because they sacrificed so much of themselves unnecessarily. You may be creating that future regret right now, or you may be preventing it by taking action before action is forced. It can feel impossible to know which choice you'll regret more, leaving now or staying longer. But ask yourself which regret you can live with better. The regret of leaving something that might have improved, or the regret of staying in something that definitely wasn't right. You remain in complete control of what you do with this warning. You can heed it or ignore it, act now or wait for crisis, protect yourself or hope things magically improve. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has brought up specific situations or people, maybe defensiveness, maybe recognition, maybe the urge to explain why this doesn't apply to you. Whatever it is, honor it, take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. What situation in your life would other people tell you to leave if they knew the full truth? You don't have to share, just acknowledge it to yourself. And this, what's actually keeping you there, love or fear, very serious warning. Not to scare you, not to judge you, but to wake you up to something you've been ignoring because looking at it directly would require action you're not sure you're ready for. But ready or not, the consequences are building. The cost is accumulating. And waiting for ready means paying more than necessary. Not eventually. Now is when the choice matters. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you know what you need to do. Trust that you're strong enough to do it. Trust that protecting yourself isn't cruelty, even if someone tries to make you believe it is. I'll see you in the next one. And listen, warnings are love. Ignoring them isn't strength. Acting on them is. Take this seriously. Your future self is begging you to